Motors and Hyundai are announcing that they're working together to reduce spending and increase efficiency. The automakers' co-development will be including passenger vehicles, combustion engines, clean energy, and electric technologies.
Joining us now to discuss this new collaboration and some other changes in the auto industry is Paul Eisenstein, editor-in-chief of Headlight.News. Good to see you, Paul.
Good seeing you, if even remotely.
Sure. So how big of a deal would you say this is, an American automaker teaming up with a Korean automaker and working together?
Well, it's big at a lot of different levels. First of all, one has to realize that Hyundai has gone from being the punchline of jokes to being the third largest automaker in the world, behind only Volkswagen and Toyota. General Motors, on the other hand, has shrunk down the scale. It's barely, number 5 or number 6 right now. So the power play is a little bit different from what it would have been maybe a decade ago. The real question is what happens next. Remember that this is an MOU, in other words, a memorandum of understanding. They're going to now really ramp up efforts to crawl all over each other's operations to find out if there's a way that they actually can work together. There's no guarantee that this will result in any joint ventures, partnerships, alliances, or what have you. Though I've got to tell you the truth, I think that we will be seeing some very important deals between them in the next year or two.
Wow. So should this partnership be successful, what does that mean for a company like GM?
Well, it's going to be important for both automakers. As you know, growth in the EV market has slowed, but the automakers still have to invest tons of money in EVs. They have to continue investing in internal combustion engines and these hybrids. Regular hybrids and plug-ins. Hyundai is doing a lot in hydrogen, and so is GM. So there's a lot of money being spent in an industry, and it's really straining budgets. If this does nothing else than to improve economies of scale, in other words, improve volumes, lower costs, that would be a big breakthrough. But it could also mean that we wind up seeing new products. The two might develop new EVs, for example, as well as new internal combustion and electric motor drives. There's a lot of things that could happen. But there's also one dark side, potentially, to this deal.
So let's say we do start to see some new vehicles. What would that look like? Are they GM or Hyundai's? What maker gets to put its name on the car?
Well, if you look at what's happening in another joint venture between General Motors and Honda, right now, GM is producing several vehicles that are sold as both the Honda Prologue and the Acura ZDX. So these are basically versions of the Chevrolet Blazer and Cadillac Lyriq that are sold under various Honda brands and name and badges. And it could go either way. It could be that maybe Hyundai produces some vehicles that are sold by GM brands or vice versa. There's also the possibility that we may just see the two automakers find a way that, maybe the Chevy Blazer is something GM wants to sell in the market, but doesn't want to build there. So Hyundai might build one of those vehicles at its plant and vice versa.
And we know that GM is seen as a leader and innovator in the industry across the country. Could this be just another way to get us ahead of the curve? Because there is still a little bit of a transition and not too many people are buying into the idea yet, but eventually we could see more of that.
Yeah, well, this is going to help them if they do come through with plans. Again, we have to say if. But if they do, this could mean a lot of developments in a lot of areas they might not be able to afford doing on their own. It could increase the number of EVs. It could lower the cost of EVs. It could also mean that they're able to afford to continue producing really cutting-edge internal combustion gas engines for the time being till we see a bigger switch to EVs in the future, as GM has always talked about. Hey, Hyundai is doing some pretty interesting things. For all we know, GM might want to get involved in their operation called Supernal, which is building flying cabs, basically. So who knows? Maybe we'll see GM join up and partner with Hyundai on building flying robocabs.
All right, I want to switch gears before we let you go, Paul. What's going on with Stellantis right now? We're hearing some gripes, I guess, from some of the dealers and the executives. What's with the infighting within Stellantis?
Yeah, this is interesting because usually these sort of things are kept inside. You might hear a leak or two about dissatisfaction, but it boiled over. We've all talked about the fact that Stellantis sales, particularly the domestic American brands, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, forget Chrysler, they're all dead. But those other brands have been really losing traction in the last year or so. They have not done that well under Stellantis, and the dealers are getting very, very frustrated by that. And it spilled over. They wrote an open letter to Carlos Tavares, the Portuguese-born, French-based CEO of Stellantis, saying, you better pull this together because we are not happy at all. And the dealers, in many ways, are as important, maybe more important, than the shareholders. If they're angry, that's bad news.
Yeah, I'll say. All right, that's the latest in the auto industry. Editor-in-chief of Headlight.News, Paul Eisenstein. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you.